I'm Gary C. Johnson. You've seen these billboards and ads that say size matters. I agree. The size that matters is the size of the results the law firm gets for their clients. We have several multi-million-dollar verdicts here in Kentucky. In fact, our firm owns the record for the single largest personal injury verdict in the state of Kentucky. That's the size that matters to you. In Kentucky, give our firm the call.
If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson tries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law of Life provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law of Life with Gary C. Johnson and Keith Casebolt.
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law of Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, my dear friend who had us all laughing before we came on this show, Gary Johnson.
How you doing, guys and gals? World treating you okay? Hopefully, no criticizing, condemning, and complaining. No imaginary slights. You're not assuming anything. You aren't sitting over there pouting because you've assumed that this person did or didn't do something. Guess what? One of you's doing it. There's not a doubt in my mind about it. You're pouting right now because of some slight that this person has done to you. That's all in your head. Imagine.
Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing. Happens all the time.
You and I we were doing the radio program the other day, and we got tickled and started laughing about all of the assumed slights or imagined slights that people go through in their daily routine.
It's constant. Any little thing out of the ordinary, we start making assumptions, and they're always negative, those assumptions are. Any little thing.
We were actually reading from our book on the radio show about the young lady who was taking a walk with her friend.
Yeah, can you find that?
Well, I don't know where it's at on the page yet, but I can tell you about it. But they were taking a walk, and her friend started to grimace a little bit, making a frown. And this lady told all the thoughts that were going through her head. She said, the reason she has that bad look on her face is she's upset with the birthday gift I gave her. She didn't think it was expensive enough. And then the lady thought, well, it's none of her business. She didn't even come to my wedding. And then it kept going. And the more that she looked at her friend, she came up with this whole narrative about why this lady was making the frown, only to find out that she had a toothache. It was completely off the charts.
Any of you ever done that? Any of you doing it right now? Think. Or don't think. Even better. Isn't it a wonderful life, though, that we're living? I'm going to go to the computer for just a few minutes, and then we're going to read you some exciting stuff from Nancy Collier's book that I think may be of some benefit to you. I hope it is. It's sure being some benefit to me and Keith.
Amen to that.
We're learning to recognize when we're messing up. We're not changing it. We're still messing up, but boy, we've learned to recognize it, right, Keith?
Oh, I told Gary, I said, I messed up the other day, unbelievably, but at least I knew it. He said, well, that's kind of like being able to do one step in dancing. So he said, you can't dance, but you know one step.
And then everybody thinks you can dance?
That's right.
Okay, let's go to the computer. There's our number if any of you need to reach us. We have a Lexington office. In fact, I believe that's where Keith has his big studio, the creative meeting.
You are correct, my friend.
It's in that building.
I am right here in this building, and it is absolutely gorgeous.
And that's where we're filming as we speak. And GaryCJohnson.com if any of you need to get in touch with me. I always return those emails when someone emails me. I want to talk to you a little bit about, in case any of you are going through a lawsuit or you're going to be getting ready to be involved in a lawsuit, something that you need to be aware of. It's called an independent medical examination of a claimant, you, plaintiff, scheduled by defense lawyers. Now, they can do this under a civil rule, rules of civil procedure, of the physical and mental examinations of persons. What that rule says is, when the mental or physical condition of a party is in controversy, the court may order the party to submit to a physical or mental examination by a physician. Now look at this. The order may be made only on motion for good cause shown. Now, in reality, what happens? The rule is not used by the courts the way it is intended. Courts always allow the defense lawyers to send injured parties to professional witnesses that always testify against the injured party.
Now, that's a big word, always. They always testify against the injured party.
Always. So the law, making sense, says that if you're claiming an injury and it's in controversy, the court has the right, and should maybe, appoint a physician, independent physician, to examine you. Now what happens in real life? Court doesn't get involved in it at all. The court allows the defense attorney to choose their doctor that they use over and over and over again. And those defense doctors always minimize your injuries, or better yet, say you're faking and malingering, or worse, they say, you got this wrong with you, but the wreck sure didn't have anything to do with it. Always.
Now, Gary, these individuals, these physicians, these doctors, they're on the payroll. They're being paid for this. So what you're saying is if they came out and said, oh yeah, the wreck did it, they're going to lose their job.
Well, no, they won't use them again. So,
wow.
And then they get this repeat business over and over and over. Why would the defense attorneys keep sending these people that are trying to recover to the same doctor over and over and over again if that doctor is independent? Mm-hmm.
Wasn't there a 60 Minutes story? I don't know if you recall this or
Yeah,
not.
that black lung guy.
Yeah, so here was this physician, and he was ruling against people that had black lung. He had had 500 people before him and said none of them had it. And in the one case, the gentleman died, and when they did the autopsy, he had the worst case of black lung in the history that they had ever seen.
It was more than 500. It was thousands and thousands of x-rays that he had read as negative.
Yeah, so the 60 Minutes piece was saying, should this doctor be held accountable for him testifying against these individuals when it was not true?
So I just want you to be aware of that, folks, that if you're in a lawsuit, they're going to send you to a doctor. The defense will choose that doctor, and you can count on the doctor saying that the wreck really may have hurt you a little bit, but you got over it real quick.
So look what you're up against to start with. You've been injured. They won't pay you. You're going to have to get a lawyer and sue, and now you're going to go into a physician who is going to testify that the wreck didn't hurt you.
Well, it's even worse than that. I've been at this business well over 40 years. I think I've seen it all, I hope. Here's a scenario. First, they use propaganda over years and years and years to make the collective wisdom of the public, which is us, that we have all of these frivolous lawsuits that are running our insurance rates up. And those of you watching this, you believe that. Every time I've ever sat down with a client that's come in to meet with me, I say, tell me about all these frivolous lawsuits. Oh, they're everywhere. Well, now what's the truth, which no one ever wants to hear? It is as hard to find a frivolous lawsuit as it is a tooth in a hen. God, you're crazy. Now, why is it that there's not a bunch of frivolous lawsuits? Let me tell you why. Lawyers have to make a living. Lawyers need money to survive. Lawyers, to take any lawsuit, any little old bitty one, you're going to have a minimum of $5,000 in it. Most, take a medical negligence case, probably going to have $100,000 in it. Out of your pocket. If lawyers filed frivolous lawsuits, they would go broke. They would be homeless because it's hard enough to recover on a legitimate, real lawsuit, because of all of the propaganda that's been out there, making people believe there's all these frivolous lawsuits. So there's no way a jury, good, reasonable, sensible jury, is ever going to let anybody recover on a frivolous lawsuit. They're too smart. Therefore, now that going in, then you have the defense doctor who's going to say the person's not hurt. Well, oh, now we got this big Harvard graduated defense doctor that's saying this person has got to, that's right, it's another one of them that blame frivolous lawsuits, right? And they know that.
So it's the opposite spectrum. It's not that it's the frivolous lawsuit. You're sitting here telling us when you've got an injured person and it's cut and dry that it was the other person's fault, you have to still end up fighting like hell just to get them some money because of how the system is.
Just to get over the hurdles of all of the propaganda that's been out there for so many years. It's the collective wisdom. And how many times have I said, Keith, the collective wisdom is always wrong.
And you know, I didn't realize the propaganda until you and I started doing this program. And check some of the old television shows. Just the other day on the Andy Griffith Show, what was the show about? It was this lawyer who was trying to get something for nothing, you know, where Otis had slipped and fallen in the jail. And you're watching all of this, not realizing that you're being set up to believe that there's frivolous lawsuits.
And the people that are saying to you, no, this isn't true, are the lawyers that they've done a better hatchet job on than they have a frivolous lawsuit. I mean, our credibility is basically zero. Used car salesmen probably have more credibility than lawyers because they've done such a hatchet job on us. Now, why would they do such a hatchet job on plaintiffs' lawyers, such as myself, in the propaganda to where that we're just trying to get money and scrounging around and filing frivolous lawsuits? Why would they do that? It's easy. I can tell you, folks, it's because we are the only people that will make a report and file it on behalf of someone that's been hurt to a jury. Now, if they can get the jury to believe that most people are filing frivolous lawsuits, and they can get the jury to believe that the person that's filing the lawsuit for them, the lawyer, is a scumbag, how can they lose?
Gary, are you telling us that a normal jury, the 12 men and women, when they come in, all 12 of them are going to believe that there's frivolous lawsuits and they have to overcome that bias based upon the facts that you deliver in order to make the right decision?
You go in with the deck stacked against you, an injured person does, simply because of all the years and all the money that's been spent, one, convincing the public of these frivolous lawsuits, and two, letting the public know just how big a scoundrel lawyers are that file these lawsuits.
Now, let me ask you a question. We're talking about our book, Can't Stop Thinking, but you just made me think of something. You said the hatchet job they've done on the lawyers. You have been able to fend that off because you come out real quickly and say, look, I'm going after all the money. I'm going to get the money. My client deserves the money. You've got no problem with it. But what does it do to your client when they realize that people are looking at them thinking that they're one of those frivolous lawsuits trying to get something for nothing?
I don't have a single client that wants to be in a lawsuit. How many of you folks that are watching this program would want to be in a lawsuit? How many of you would choose to be in a lawsuit? None of you. It's nothing but aggravation and torment and torture and all kinds of stuff. People file lawsuits because the insurance companies don't give them any alternative. They're trying to get them to take a nickel on a dollar. A lot of people do. It works.
To avoid it, because they don't want to be in the lawsuit. They don't want to be in a courtroom.
That's right. Well, let's finish this up right quick. Let's see if I got any more. The words independent medical examination is a defense-created name for examinations of injured parties by their professional witnesses.
In other words,
bottom line.
In other words, it's not independent.
There is no such thing as an independent medical examination. The word independent medical examination is not in the civil rules. You'll not find it. Reality, medical examinations by physicians who are professional witnesses for money. That's all it is.
It comes down to be all about the money, doesn't it?
It is all about the money, and we talked about that the other day about money, and we did a program on it. The only thing an injured person can get is money. They can't get revenge. But money, when you take it from these insurance companies, can inflict pain on them. It hurts when they have to give their money up. So you are giving them some pain too.
You can't make them say they're sorry, but when you take their money,
you're inflicting some pain back
Yes.
on them. So I guess in one sense that does work. Let's go to the book. We've got to talk about the book. We've got some stuff marked there.
look, I got my copy. Gary said on this program a couple of weeks ago that this was one of the best books. I got to be honest with you. I got my copy in a little bit later than Gary. Can't Stop Thinking by Nancy Collier. I got to be honest with you. You can't put it down. When you start reading this book, this lady is so on with what she's talking about.
She's smart.
Yeah, real smart. And it gets comical because everything that she's talking about, we've all done.
And she's talking about the voice in our heads. So Keith, read some of the brilliant stuff she had to say.
All right. Recovery from excessive thinking is not about stopping the thoughts or achieving a thought-free existence. At the same time, it's not about changing what our thoughts are about, skewing them from negative over to positive. Although this can be helpful, it's not the solution. Recovery happens when we change the way we interact with thoughts, the value we assign them, the belief we invest in them, and the attachment we have to them, no matter what comments or messages that they contain. Now, Gary, that's really powerful because over the years that you and I have talked, we've gone through just about every scenario. Tell that chatterbox to shut up, or I'm only going to think positive thoughts. I'm not going to think negative. We've done just about everything, and Nancy is saying, nice try, guys, but that's not the answer.
And I agree with her. I think she's exactly right. You can't shut the chatterbox up, those voices. You can't. You can't stop and you can't control the content of them. What you can do and what she teaches us in this book is you cannot buy into it, those thoughts, and make them you. So Keith, let's read a little more about what she says about how you deal with that.
You know, you gave an example the other day on the radio that I really liked. You said, Keith, you got 700 channels on your television, and as you're flicking through them, you make a choice on which one you want to stop and watch or the ones that you want to pass up. And you kind of likened that to the thoughts with what Nancy was saying.
You get to choose which ones you're going to buy into.
Absolutely. All right, this is I obsess about what hurts the most. Have you ever noticed how much time that you spend thinking about what went wrong, is wrong, and will go wrong? If the answer is a lot, you're normal, even if it doesn't feel normal or good. According to a study by the National Science Foundations, humans experience as many as 60,000 thoughts per day. Deepak Chopra sets the number even higher, between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. Furthermore, according to the research, 80% of those thoughts are negative. 90% are redundant. That is, they tell us the same thing over and over again. Oddly, the more negative a thought, the more we're included or inclined to engage with it and return to it. If you do the math, that's a lot of negative and repetitive thoughts. When a thought appears, we instantly are off on the ride that it offers. We view it as an invitation, as a mandate, and we jump on board without any consideration. No matter where it's headed, indeed, thinking can take on some dangerous rides and into some dark, dreadful neighborhoods inside of our own mind. Now, this chapter, when you gave me this to read as an assignment, I sat and I thought about the things that I have gone over and over and over, things that happened 10 years ago that I can't do anything about, but I keep replaying that scenario as if though there's going to be an answer.
As if though you could change it.
Yes.
As if you could make it different. You get a little grasp of what she's saying there, folks. 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% negative. Do you think just saying, well, I'm going to think positive is going to solve that problem? I used to think maybe you could. I don't think that way anymore. You can't solve that problem in the sense of saying, I'm not going to have those thoughts, because those thoughts, you don't have any control over those thoughts. How many of you have invited the thoughts that come into your head? Asking for them. Huh? Any of you? No, they just come out of nowhere.
And some of them are strange, and you're like, boy, that's weird.
Yeah.
But in this chapter, how many times have we heard people say, I just can't get over this, or I can't get this out of my head? What she's saying is the reason is we keep replaying it.
And you probably can't necessarily, the only way you can then control that replay, according to what she says in this book, don't buy into it. Distance yourself. Make a conscious effort to distance yourself from it and observe the thought as being separate from you. Then you can start getting some sense of control of your life back by not buying in and making that thought who you are. Now, we've spent a lifetime of making our thoughts who we are. This is not going to be an easy exercise. Trust me, Keith and I have been playing around with it. It's not easy, is it, Keith?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, don't let it define you. You've heard all this stuff. But, Gary, I'm sitting here thinking about all the decisions in our lives. A lost love, a lost financial loss, a job opportunity, maybe a mistake that we've made. And here we are holding these things, and we're replaying that movie over and over and over, as if though there's going to be some kind of inspired answer to it, when it was an event that happened and we've got to move on.
Read a little more for us.
All
It's
right.
good stuff.
Back to the book. At an evolutionary level, and this is a good chapter, we focus on the negative as a survival instinct. Psychologist Rick Hansen explains, we have a negativity bias when it comes to our attention. Negative information creates more activity in the brain, more firings than positive information of equal intensity. Our brains are also better at noticing the negative than they are at noticing the positive. In an effort to protect us, our brains exaggerate threats, undervalue our abilities and strengths, and obscure our capacity to deal with difficulty. We're like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for good experiences, says Hansen, which means we think about and remember the deep important whatever that goes wrong or bad in life, and at the same time, we tend to forget and discount and minimize what's good. What's certain is that we have a harder time unsticking from negative thoughts once they've got their glue on us, and bad glue is stickier than good glue. Compounding the problem is the fact that negative experiences take up more space in our brains than positive experiences. Dr. John Gotham, a relationship researcher, discovered that for each negative interaction that takes place between a couple, it takes 5 positive interactions to bring that couple back to a state of commitment. In terms of importance, it's a 5-to-1 ratio, positive to negative, and an uneven fight is indeed going on. For millions of years, living creatures have had to decide whether to focus on either getting the things they want or avoiding the things that could hurt them. What Hansen calls chasing carrots or ducking sticks. When it comes to avoiding extinction, ducking the stick may be a better strategy. After all, if we miss the carrot today, we can probably find one tomorrow, but if we fail to duck the stick today, there won't be a tomorrow. It's wiser then to keep our attention tuned and scanned for those elements that could potentially wipe us out of existence.
That's evolution. That's in our DNA.
Wow. When you read this, my friend, I'm almost like, how do we have a chance? I mean, you talked about the perception about clients and attorneys, and it's stacked against you walking in. When it comes to happiness and controlling your thoughts or dealing with them, it's stacked against us.
Remember when we started out this year, folks, we said this is the year we're going to try to figure out how to be happy, right? Tough job, But we're digging, and we're digging deeper. We're going to try to maybe get a little glimmer of happiness in each of your lives before this year's over. That's the goal.
You know, I had no idea what kind of big job that you were taking on when you said we're going to try to be happier. I thought it would be easier than this, my friend, but it's not. The book, Can't Stop Thinking, by Nancy Collier. And I'm with Gary. I highly recommend that you get it because you won't be able to put it down. And the good thing about this, you said on the radio program the other day, Keith, if one person gets one more minute of happiness because of something that is said, it will all be worth it.
And we've done that. There's one lady that I recommended this book to, wonderful lady, and she emailed me and said, thank you for recommending this book. I've read it once. I'm now into it, reading it twice. I've started taking notes. I am comfortable with the fact that this book may make a difference in my life. So,
my friend, it feels good to feel good, and it's better to be happy if we can. Thank you so much for taking this time to tune in. Simply the Law of Life, Gary's program. They're laws, what you put in, you get out. We're addressing them and having fun doing it, and we really appreciate you tuning in. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. We look forward to seeing you again next week at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law of Life, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.